Have you ever asked yourself why your relationship feels so painful when you try so hard to be a good person? Do you ever wonder why you feel something in the pit of your stomach just flip-flop when your partner comes in the room? Do you ever wonder why you feel like you are a nobody after being with this person for so many years? I'm here to address some of those questions in this part 1 of a 3-part series about identifying and remedying emotional abuse. My name is Shara Ogilvie, and I'm a mental health counselor. I'm experienced. I've been doing this for lots of years. In fact, my very first client ever was an emotional abuse recovery individual. And it's something that I know a lot about because I've lived it. I've watched my mother live it. I've gotten myself out of very sticky situations, and I'm here to help you become what I've been able to become: confident and happy and in control of your life. So in today's video, we are going to talk about how to identify emotional abuse. How do you know if something is actually going wrong, or if maybe it's really you? Maybe you are the one that's just a horrible person. Well, by the end of this video, you're going to have some tools to identify if the relationship you're in is emotionally abusive. And I have to throw out there one other thing that I think is just part of being humble, and that is asking ourselves, do we also abuse other people emotionally? Do we say or do things that maybe could have adverse effects on others? So we're not just looking for how am I being emotionally abused? We're also turning the lens inward and saying, is this something I do to others as well? Because we all want to be on the right side of this equation, treating other people with respect and love, but being able to identify if we're not being treated properly so that we can put boundaries in place and manage moving forward to create a better future for ourselves. All right, so we want to identify when things are going badly. And by the way, before I get started into all the 1, 2, 3s of how do you know if emotional abuse is happening, I do want to tell you I've created a 7-page guide. This is my copy right here, a 7-page guide to identifying, managing, and educating yourself about emotional abuse. There's tons of great information in this guide. It's to help you remind yourself that you're not going crazy, to help remind yourself of what things to watch for, what things to work on. So see the link in the description for this guide that you can download to help identify and then just keep the process going of learning and growing through your own recovery process. All right, so how do you know if things are going wrong when it comes to emotional abuse? The first thing to do is to be able to recognize if it's even happening in your relationship. I would say in most cases, emotional abuse happens in a marriage or boyfriend-girlfriend relationship or romantic relationship. It can happen in other contexts, but I'm going to couch this as if it were in a marital relationship. That's just kind of the lens I'm approaching it from. There's some clear patterns that you see when emotional and verbal abuse is happening. The first category is communication and verbal boundaries. And by the way, all of what I'm talking about is in that 7-page guide, so don't worry, you don't have to take notes. You can download it, you can keep it handy. You can just listen for right now. So one of the things that is a red flag is the silent treatment. If the person you're with is using silence as a weapon to exert power, that's different than if that person is just feeling really tired or doesn't have a lot to say, or maybe they're super upset and they need a few minutes to cool down. That's about them just managing themselves. But the silent treatment is where you know you're being punished. So that is a red flag. Another red flag would be public embarrassment. Intentionally shaming you in front of others or family or strangers. So maybe they're making jokes or maybe they're criticizing you in some way, but you can tell that it's done intentionally in front of others to shame you. And again, that's a little bit different than, say, there's a lot of stress and the two of you are in a group and you need to give some quick feedback. Hey, can you do this instead of that? Or, oh, hey, that kind of hurt my feelings. Can we shift? That's different than some flexible in the moment feedback. You can tell that it's intentionally meant to intimidate you or hurt your feelings in public. The next one is persistent criticism, attacking your character, your intelligence, or your appearance under the guise of honesty. And so I call this complissalts. It's like a compliment, but it's an insult. And so it's made to look like they're just trying to help you out, but really it's insulting you. Okay, the next category would be autonomy and control boundaries, when your freedom of choice is being limited. The financial abuse is one way this can show up, like controlling access to money or requiring permission for basic spending. Again, this is different than a simple budget where both of you are accountable to stay within some guardrails and keep on track for a budget. It's really making you kind of beg for, a $2 item, a $5 item, grocery money, gas money, just the basic things that you need. And so that you never quite feel like you can have what you need without constantly submitting like a form with all the reasons and then feeling scared that it's probably going to get turned down anyway. That would be financial abuse. Digital surveillance would fall into this category, monitoring your phone, your social media, or your location without your consent. And again, this is different than to marital partners who share their location and they just do this for safety reasons. They're both into it. Or they both agree that, hey, one or the other of us has had some kind of addiction or trouble with phone in the past. So we give passwords, we give, the right to check, and we both agree to that. That's different. That is like consensual, but where you're constantly being monitored against your will and you feel like you can't breathe. It should feel like I am constricted. I'm not able to make choices as an adult. And then that would be some form of abuse, which again is different than volitionally offering to give passwords or some of your control to the other person if you've had trouble with addiction. All right, another red flag in this category would be isolation tactics, creating conflict that makes it difficult for you to see friends and family. So always some kind of crisis or some kind of emotional tug of war where you never actually get to see your friends and family, and it starts becoming a thing where it's only their friends and family or it's only them. And again, this is different than if you have someone who's like genuinely sick and they need you to be home and care for them, or you're in a stage of life where there aren't a lot of resources for either one of you to get out and have tons of fun with friends and family. If you both are needing to make some compromises to manage children or, multiple jobs, that's different. But if one is clearly shutting down the other, that is an abusive violation. The next would be coercion, using threats, including threats of self-harm, to force you to stay or comply. So if you don't do what I say, I'm going to hurt you. Obviously, that one's pretty clear. But if you don't do what I say, I'll hurt myself, can also be manipulative. And again, this is different from someone who is genuinely struggling with their mental health. Maybe they're suicidal and they're having some self-harm struggles. There's a vulnerability about that. If someone is in this genuine place of like they're struggling, there's a vulnerability. But when it's abusive, it's like it feels like a control tactic. There's something in your gut telling you it's all aimed at forcing you to do something. All right, partway through here, I just want to take a break and ask you which so far of any of these resonates with you. Are you in the middle of a situation? Is somebody that you love in the middle of a situation? Or even in maybe lighter brush strokes, are there some things you're seeing in your life where you could lighten up with somebody else? Is there anything resonating with you? Put that in the comments so that we can all benefit and learn together. All right, let's move on to this third and last category of emotional and mental abuse. And that would be safety and trust boundaries. When the relationship foundation is built on fear rather than security, that is a huge red flag. And so fear is like, if you leave me, I'll do something to force you to stay. Or I'm trying to shame you into being somebody that I am willing to be around. That is using, fear and control. But real relationships are built on trust and security. Like, I'm choosing to be here because I love you. I'm choosing to be here because I enjoy being with you. I'm choosing to be here because this is mutually beneficial and we both are committed. That's very different than if there's control tactics. So some of these control tactics include, first is volatility, frequent, unpredictable outbursts that leave you walking on eggshells. So you never quite know. You're doing everything right, and then all of a sudden they're furious or deeply hurt or whatever, but it's the same, like maybe a day or two ago you did the same thing and everything was great and they were so happy and so approving of everything you did. So you never quite know what to expect. I think one of the biggest metrics is just your gut. Like, do you feel like so tense and so freaked out on the inside around this person, but you're trying so hard to put on this calm, kind, keep everything even so that it doesn't upset them. That's a red flag. And again, this is different than somebody actually giving you feedback in the relationship that they feel hurt or they need something to change if possible. It's reasonable for us to give each other feedback, but it's this unpredictable volatility where we feel like we're walking on eggshells that can be problematic. The next one would be possessiveness, accusatory behavior regarding your time or your platonic interactions. And platonic, of course, means just friend-to-friend interactions. So they're super jealous and controlling about who and what you spend your time on. Again, this is different than someone who just simply loves you and wants to be with you and says, I just would really love to spend more time with you. There's a vulnerability and a kindness to, I really would love to spend more time with you. I just love to be with you, versus, why are you doing that? Who are you doing? You need to be here with me. You need to. This is your duty. It's your job, whatever. Using kind of like the fear and the control and shame. Again, it's the intensity and the flavor that makes a huge difference between whether that's abusive or whether it's a vulnerable request. Another one would be affection withholding, removing physical or emotional warmth to punish you for your bad behavior. So you're getting kind of like pushed back into position if you did something that they don't like by they won't look at you, or they won't hug you, or they use a harsh tone of voice, or they refuse to say kind words to you and you know what you did wrong. It's because you did this thing wrong and they're punishing you. That's where we have a problem. And again, that would be different than if somebody's having just a sad or difficult moment and they need to be with themselves for a minute, or if you really did something to hurt them and they don't feel able to hug you right now. It's not like genuine for them. There is a vulnerable honesty in someone really just struggling through what they're dealing with so they can get to a better place, versus blatantly trying to punish you because they are not willing to look at themselves and their own issues. All right, the last one, and I'm sure you've heard this word 1,000 times, it's trending, and that is gaslighting, denying your reality or telling you that your memory of events is crazy or wrong. We could have lots of episodes on gaslighting. If you want to learn more about that, there's many people who've made lots of episodes on gaslighting, but the whole idea around that is trying to make you feel stupid, wrong, or bad for having the thoughts and feelings that you do, that their thoughts and feelings are the only ones that are right, and they'll even set you up to fail. Like say or do things to create a certain reaction in you, and then when you have that reaction, call you crazy or bad. That is a huge red flag with emotional abuse, and one of the biggest ones for sure. All right, so to recap, we have covered a lot about emotional abuse. We've covered communication and verbal boundaries, an abuser trying to control how you communicate. We've covered autonomy and your own freedom with finances and digital activities, and with friendships and so forth. We've also covered safety and trust boundaries, having that volatility, that possessiveness, withholding affection, and gaslighting. These are really important things to be aware of. Again, as I said earlier, not only in others, but in ourselves. If there's nothing else that you get out of this video, like if there's nobody in your life that is, hopefully nobody in your life that's being emotionally abusive to you, then it's really a good idea to just self-check. Are there times that I use the silent treatment? Are there times that I make someone beg for a financial resource without being reasonable? Do I ever, withhold affection or kind of set someone up to fail and then make fun of them for it? Do I try to coerce or threaten somebody into anything, any kind of relationship pattern with me? Those are helpful things to look at, not always the easiest things to look at, but I will give you more solutions in upcoming videos, because we are going to be talking about what to do. If this is indeed where you're at, what can we do? So I want you to stick around for part 2 and part 3, where we talk about solutions. And don't forget to subscribe and follow along so that you can catch those. And again, a reminder to download this 7-page guide to help you remember that you're not crazy, to help remember what kinds of things to look for. And there will be lots of solutions in there as well. I really look forward to talking with you more about this next time. Take care.